Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be controversial. I came up with this idea just to have a quick little easy chatty video and talk about some unpopular book opinions that I have. And I know that there was an unpopular opinions book tag, but I mean I feel like that was like last year, so I would be very late to the party, and also I was too lazy to go look for the questions. So I just have 5 books / series that I think I have some unpopular opinions about. And just before anyone like gets ready to be really defensive in all this, I'm number one not going to be hating on any books or any authors, etc. And kind of my unpopular opinions, most of them are just I think the sequel was a really big letdown. I prefer this book when most people seem to really love this series. That kind of thing. I think the first one I'm going to talk about is the Arc of the Scythe trilogy by Neil Shusterman. So I have the whole box set. I read them 2020. Yes, in like January. I like read all the series like pretty quickly after each other, and I definitely have some unpopular opinions. Number one unpopular opinion is I don't love dystopian. I know so many people on BookTube, on the internet, love dystopian, and I just don't. I like it. I did overall like this series. And then my second unpopular opinion is I know a lot of people think Thunderhead is the strongest book in the series. That so many people love Thunderhead. They rave about how it's the best book in the series, all of that. And my unpopular opinion is I disagree. I think Scythe is the best one. I really like the first one. I didn't hate the second one. I also didn't hate the third one. That's an unpopular opinion coming in a second. But yeah, I definitely think Scythe was the strongest of the 3. And so then my final unpopular opinion about the series is The Toll isn't that bad, guys. I actually gave Thunderhead and The Toll the same rating. I think both of them have the same problems, and everyone else just seems to overlook the problems in Thunderhead. I gave them both 3.5 out of 5 stars at the time. Kind of looking back on it, I think they're more 3 stars, and Scythe is a definite 4. And my main issues with Thunderhead and The Toll, I know The Toll didn't go in a direction a lot of people liked. I was okay with the direction. I was okay with exploring some side characters and all of that. Like, yeah, it was a bit disappointing to follow Citra and Rowan in the first 2 books, and then kind of taking a back seat for a while in the 3rd book. But my main issues was the pacing. That was my main issue with The Toll. That was also my main issue with Thunderhead. I thought the pacing was pretty bad in Thunderhead. It got very intense and very exciting right at the end, but I think it was really slow and drawn out for the start of the book, and it was just slow. There was nothing happening, and I think The Toll was the same. Whereas Scythe, I think it was interesting from the start, and the pace was kept up, and it kept building towards the end, whereas Thunderhead and The Toll were definitely like very slow starts. Nothing was happening. I was super bored at the beginning, and then at the end they both got interesting. Next one I'm going to talk about is actually an unpopular opinion I've spoken about a good bit recently, because I read the series pretty recently, and that is Mistborn. I didn't love the series, which is an unpopular opinion in itself. It's like everyone's favorite fantasy series. It's incredible. It's the best. And I just didn't love it. I guess unpopular opinion number 1 is I thought the first book was the best one. And I actually have seen after that there is actually people who think it should have been like a standalone, or it was the best one and all of that. And I'm like, oh my god, there's people who agree with me. But I don't necessarily think it should have been a standalone. I mean, it would have been okay as a standalone, but like I didn't hate the 2nd and 3rd book, so like I'm not mad that it was a series. But yeah, I don't really like The Final Empire the most, which seems to be an unpopular opinion. People seem to love it. And then so if you didn't know, I use CAWPILE, which is a rating system created by G from Book Roast, and in it, this was 1 point off of 5 stars. It was so close to that 5-star mark, and I was like, oh my god, the 2nd book and the 3rd book definitely going to be 5 stars. And then before I picked up the 2nd book, I saw Becca and I saw Ashley read it, and both of them said, oh, it's a bit slow, it's a bit like middle book, and I was like, oh, at least I'm prepared. And they were right, and I liked it less, but I was like, that's okay. It's okay that they liked it less, because the 3rd book, everyone loves the 3rd book, and it's the best finale ever written. Let me repeat that, because this is a thing I have heard at least 5 booktubers say. It is the best finale ever written. No. It's not just booktubers. I've seen it in Goodreads reviews. Like, everyone seems to think this is the best finale ever written. And it's not. I mean, obviously, that is very subjective. I personally don't think so. You might believe that, and personal preference. But yeah, for me, again, another unpopular opinion, I do not agree with that. This was my lowest rated of the series. So in the Final Empire, things happen. They are trying to take down the Lord Ruler. And then in the second book, it is set up for this. And I was like, okay, but in the third book, you know, things are going to be happening again. And no, they didn't. Things happened about, from here on, yeah, you know, a good like 50 pages at the end. So yeah, so I had 2 whole books to set up for about 50 pages. And just so you know, I did give this a 4 stars. Every time I talk about it, you would swear I give it like 2 stars. But no, I did actually overall enjoy it. But I'm just a little salty about it, okay? In my wrap-up, I literally said, this is going to be an oddly negative review for a book that I liked. And that is like the disclaimer I have to put out every time I speak about this series, because I did really enjoy this series. I liked the characters. I liked the plot. I thought it was very interesting. I thought the magic system was interesting. But I'm just so salty about the fact that everyone loves it. I just didn't love it. I didn't love how it ended. I liked it. I thought it made sense. People always talk about like it's a huge plot twist. And no, it's not. I saw it coming a mile away. But I mean, it's definitely interesting. And I mean, it made sense where it went. And so I'm not mad that I guessed the plot twist. I'm just mad that people made me think it was like an impossible plot twist to guess, when in my mind, it actually made the most sense. As a sequel, unpopular opinion to all of my Mistborn opinions is I recently read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and I gave this a 5 stars. So I prefer this over all of these, which is definitely an unpopular opinion. Judging by like the ratings, this is definitely not loved as much as the Mistborn trilogy, but I really like this. And I can't exactly put my finger on why. But I think it's just, I do think it's a lot to do with personal preference. Like the Mistborn trilogy is a lot of heists and like planning and fighting. This is a lot of like political intrigue and sneaking around and all of that. And while there is obviously fighting, it's a lot kind of on a smaller scale, like trying to like do it behind people's backs and all of this. I also just prefer the characters in here, I think. And I think a big reason is, so there's 2 sisters in here, and I think they are a lot more well developed than Vin was. And I think Vin is quite bland. I do like her, and I do think she's interesting, but I don't think she was developed to her full potential. Whereas like these 2 characters, they felt very real, and it didn't feel like, oh, they're so tough or anything like that. Like they were like, you know, one of them was like super girly, who was like, oh my god, everything here is so colorful. And one of them was like very much, oh, I'm better than everyone, and it was a journey of her discovering no, she's not, and I really enjoyed that. And so they felt a lot more well developed and a lot more deep. And yeah, so I actually prefer this to the Mistborn trilogy. So I'm going to talk about some Cassandra Clare books. So I just brought Lady Midnight over. I also have the Infernal Devices trilogy there. So just as a little change, very popular opinion, the Infernal Devices is my favorite Cassandra Clare books. I love these with all my heart. I think it was like the 3rd or 4th video on my channel is me ranking all of Cassandra Clare's books that were out at that point. And I definitely had some controversial takes. But I'll leave that link down below. Mightn't necessarily recommend you watching it. At some point I might like redo it. When she eventually finishes the whole Shadowhunter universe, I will redo it. I feel like with Cassandra Clare, there is 4 camps. I mean, there's obviously more, but I feel like these are the 4 main ones. So, number 1 is you don't like her. Number 2 is you have loved her for a very long time and you still absolutely adore everything she's doing. And then I think camp 3 is more like newer readers where like, and they read it and they're like, oh, her old stuff isn't as good. And then they're like reading like her new stuff and they're like, oh my god, she's gotten so much better as a writer, which I mean makes sense because she's been doing this for like what, 14 years, 13, 14, 15. She's been doing it for a while, so it makes sense that she's become a stronger writer and all of this. And so that's kind of a 3rd camp. I think newer readers who don't really love her old stuff because they don't really have the nostalgia for it, but really like the newer stuff. And then there's the 4th camp, which is what I am in, which is older fans of the books who do not like the newer stuff. despite the fact it is like objectively better. So yeah, and I fit into that. I do think that's probably the most unpopular opinion. I was just kind of simplifying it into, I think those are like the main four. And I definitely think my one is probably the most unpopular, because why would you dislike the books that are objectively better? And the answer is because they're just repeats for me. So I'm not like a super old fan. I haven't been around since like City of Bones. I mean, I was like, I don't know, 7 or something. So I haven't been around that long, but I have been around since I think City of Heavenly Fire came out. I was around for the release of that. I've been around for a while, so I think that was 2013 that was released, or maybe 2012. 2012 or 13, I can't remember. But either way, I've been around since then. And I mean, it feels like not that long ago, but no, it's been a while. And I love the Mortal Instruments. It definitely has issues, but it is so filled with nostalgia for me. Even now, if I reread them, I would probably really enjoy a lot of them. Even back when I first read them, I did have like least favorites in the series, which were like City of Ashes and City of Fallen Angels. Those are my least favorites. And obviously, I adore the Infernal Devices. I only reread them back in 2020 in February before Chain of Gold. I loved them still. Like 5-starred them. I adored them. And then we get to Lady Midnight. And I really enjoyed Lady Midnight, actually. I give this, I think, a 4 or 5 star. Lord of Shadows, I didn't love as much, but I was still interested. Queen of Air and Darkness, I didn't really like. I mean, I still give it like a 3.5. But it definitely wasn't something I really loved. And the same goes for Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron. I haven't loved either of them either. Looking at them objectively, I know that she's grown as a writer and she has improved. But for me, I'm just like, I've been here before. I've done this before. Oh, they're going to another dimension? Been there, done that like 8 years ago. And yeah, and oh, there's a serial killer on the street? Oh, been there, done that like 5 years ago. And love triangles? Been there, done that every single book. Please cut it out with the love triangles. That's actually not an unpopular opinion. That's a very popular opinion. Yeah, and so it makes her books so predictable to me. I'm like, I know what you're going to do because you've done it before. And it really, yeah, and it's just like really annoying. And I mean, I still enjoy her books. I mean, I gave like Chain of Iron 4 stars. I had a really good time with it. Before anyone says, why do you keep reading her books then? I have been here too long to give up now. I mean, as I said, I've been here since like City of Heavenly Fire. And yeah, I'm not giving up now. I'm too far in. Then the next one I'm going to talk about is Sarah J Maas. And I know everyone is going to go, oh no, let's not talk about Sarah J Maas. Because on the internet, there seems to be 2 camps, which is I love Sarah J Maas or I hate Sarah J Maas. I'm trash for Sarah J Maas or I think Sarah J Maas is trash. And I fall in the category of I just don't care. I am meh about her. I am neutral. I can see why people really like her, and she has done things that I'm like, ooh. But then personal preference wise, she usually focuses on things that I'm not interested in, and so I'm like, but that one thing that you mentioned, I really want that. And but then she's like, yeah, but I want to talk about this, and I'm like, okay. So yeah, so I have very neutral feelings on her, which in itself is a very unpopular opinion. People really love to either love her or love to hate her. So number 1, I have never read the ACOTAR series. And it is a punishment in my TBR jar because I have said I'm never reading it. Sarah J Maas, she's not an author I have completely written off. I have written her off for the time being because I'm not interested in the ACOTAR series. I have read the first book in the Crescent City series and I was okay with that. I give it, I think, a 2 star. It's actually, like, thinking back on it, I remember, like, things that I like about it. And so I kind of think maybe more like a 2.5. But, and there was definitely, like, elements in there, even more so than, like, in the Throne of Glass series. I saw elements in there that I was like, that is, like, a nugget of greatness for me. Because there was a lot more talk about, like, family relationships and friendships. And the relationship, I actually liked the relationship in there, which I was shocked by. And so I saw nuggets of greatness, but there was a lot of tropes and things like that that she uses in a lot of her books that I just don't personally love. And so I'm kind of saying no for now. And I think another thing is I don't really like the Rights Fairies, which obviously most of her books are about the Fae. And so I'm like, if one day in the future, it could be 10 years down the line, she writes a book that is not about the Fae, I will pick it up and give it a go. Kind of like a sub unpopular opinion here is about like just the Throne of Glass series in general. A lot of fans of the series say is, oh, get through the first 2 books, the rest of the series, it gets so much better. And like, I think objectively, I can see where you're coming from, because I think the first 2 books were pretty directionless, and in the 3rd book she actually like knew where she wanted to go with the story. I actually disagree with it, and I do know a couple of people who agree with me with this opinion, but I do think it is like the most unpopular opinion, which is I really enjoyed the first 2 books in the Throne of Glass series, and it went downhill from there for me. And so yeah, as I said, I know the first 2 books, they're pretty directionless. There's definitely like some plot holes, and there is like some things that I'm like, that doesn't make sense or whatever. But I had so much fun with these. I just loved them so much. I thought they were like, I didn't take them seriously. I just had some fun with them. And that's what I did. And I gave the first 2 4 stars. One last unpopular opinion we're going to discuss, and that is about the Renegades series by Marissa Meyer. So this one is probably going to be a little more negative than the rest of them. I have very mixed feelings about this series. So I gave the first book a 5 stars. Again, this kind of like the Throne of Glass series. Don't take it too seriously. Don't expect like plot twists and shocking reveals and all of this. Like, it's a bit of fun. It's a bit cheesy. That's okay though. Then Arch Enemies, I gave a 4 stars. A bit of Bell Book Syndrome, you know, a bit pacing issues. But overall, again, I really enjoyed it. Again, it's still like cheesy. It's like, okay, yeah, like there's touches of like morally grey kind of thing. But like overall, it's just like cute and like sweet. And it's definitely a bit on the younger YA side. And then Supernova. I gave this book 3.5 out of 5 stars at the time, but honestly, looking back on it, it's honestly like a 1 star now in my mind. I cannot remember a single good thing about this book. I'm just mad at it. So yeah, I really did not like Supernova at all. Have you ever read a finale that makes you like dislike the first books in the series? Because that's what Supernova did. Like, it's actually made me like have negative feelings about Renegades and Arch Enemies when I really enjoyed them when I read them, which obviously sucks. Supernova fills me with rage now, which is a very unpopular opinion according to Goodreads, because this has a super high average rating, which, I mean, first of all, like 90% of the time, a sequel is going to have a higher rating than the first book, because people who read the first book and don't like it oftentimes are not going to continue the series. And so it's people who like the series that are going to continue, and they are obviously more likely to enjoy the sequels. But you do occasionally get a couple of sequels that do have lower ratings because maybe the story took a direction that the fans did not like, or all of that. But this rating is so high. It's like a 4.4 or something. Like, no. It's like, I think this is like a 4 on the dot or something. And I can't remember what this is, but like the jump, I'm like, okay, that is way too big of a jump. Like, I know it makes sense, like statistically, it makes sense for it to have a higher average rating, but I'm like, not that much higher. No way is it that much higher. I can't tell you why I hated it so much because it would spoil the series. I might do it after this. I might like just talk a little bit, and then I like right at the end I'll do like a spoiler section if any of you have read it or have no interest in reading the Renegade series and want to know why I hate it so much. But yeah, to put it non-spoilery, throughout the series we have like glimpses. As I said, it is definitely a younger YA story, but we have like glimpses of morally grey because we follow one of our main characters was raised by the bad guys, and through her point of view we see that the bad guys, they had some points. Like, yeah, the people with powers, they're not treated great, treated like criminals, or like they're forced to like join the Renegades, which isn't great. And a lot of people, you know, a lot of people don't like people that have magic powers and treat them poorly. So you're like, okay, yeah, like the bad guys, they have some points. But like they're like out there murdering people, so obviously, yeah, they're not great either. You know, they're not exactly right. Murder is not the answer. Obviously, like the Renegades, you know, they're the heroes and they're like celebrated by this world and everyone loves them. But like, you know, you see in the story that, you know, they are wrong sometimes, and some of like the things that they're doing, you're like, that's not good. And so you're like, so there is like this like hint of like gray morality, nothing is black and white. Thought that that was going to be dealt with in Supernova. And the way it ended was a complete cop-out. It was lazy writing, in my opinion. Like, she had been setting up, or maybe I was reading too much into it, but she was setting up a conversation about how not everything is good and not everything is bad. And, you know, in the end it would like come to like a discussion, save the world together, because as I said, it is cheesy, but the way this ended was a whole new level of cheese. Whole new level. And yeah, so they took all of that like groundwork that she was building, and she found the easiest out for it and a way to not have that conversation at all. And I despised it. So I'm going to go into spoiler territory. So if you want to read this series, you know, you should leave now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. But if you want to know why I don't like this, so either you have no intentions of reading it or you have finished it, let us begin. At the very end of this book, Max, who is a child, and his power is to take other people's powers, which is an interesting power, obviously. And at the end of this book, he puts on like this magical helmet that's like an amplifier, basically. And he takes everyone's powers and then gives them out to everyone. And so everyone in the world has powers, except for him. Are you kidding me? What a cop-out! What lazy writing! Oh, we're not gonna have a discussion about how, yes, the bad guys were right. We were treating people with magic like absolute crap and like criminals. Like, no, we're not gonna discuss that at all. We're gonna just, oh, everyone has powers. Everyone's equal now! Are you kidding me? It actually infuriates me. And like, I'm okay with the cheesiness. Like, so as I said, Nova, she's raised by the bad guys. And so like, I knew she was obviously gonna like turn to the good side for love because she loves Adrian. And like, I was okay with that. I knew that was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna be cheesy. And it was. And it was adorable. We were getting very close to the end. And I was like, oh, there's not a lot left. Not a lot left in here. And, you know, I was like, oh, she has to turn against her uncle. And you know, she did that, yay. And then this, yeah, it angers me so much. It makes no sense. The Renegades, like, they had like this like chemical they created that would take away people's powers. And they just wanted to use it on anyone who wasn't on their side. So like, even like people who are just living their normal lives and just happen to have powers, they were like, oh, if you're not on our side, we're going to like neutralize you. And so you're like, that is not good. How is that supposed to be good? And we had barely any conversation about that. Because in the end, they didn't need to do it because everyone has powers now. I was expecting some sort of conversation. Obviously, like, not with like the main bad guy. I expected him to be defeated because he was going way too far. And he just wanted to like take over the world, which is obviously very evil. But like the rest of them, they just wanted to be treated like people. The only way they could do this was through the anarchists, they thought. And so I expected, you know, the guys in there who aren't that bad. Like, yeah, they've done some bad stuff, but like, in the end, they just want to have a good life. It would still be extremely cheesy and be like, let's make a better world together. But like, that's what I thought it was leading up to. And that would have made so much more sense. And yeah, as I said, it was just lazy writing, in my opinion, to have it. So Max takes in everyone's powers in the entire world and then he releases them. So everyone has a power. I really disliked this book in the end. So yeah, that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!